Okay, welcome everyone to our class. We have a different location over here, undisclosed this location. We can study together, continuing the laws of Berachas Hanenin, the laws of blessings. So in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, or in Seder Berachas Hanenin, as we're following, this is chapter 3. So last chapter, chapter 2, we spent like 2 or 3 classes on. Chapter 2 dealt with the laws of blessing of mizonos, mainly like which type of grain or mizonos, and how much of you eat with it. And last week we spoke about what happens if we eat some of these pastries as a dessert during our meal. Do you make a blessing or not? That was last week. Today we move on to a little bit of a different discussion. The discussion is what happens if I'm eating one dish, one food, but there is numerous blessings, different foods that are coming together that have different blessings, right? So just to back up for a moment, right? We know the halacha is that if we have 2 different foods with the same blessing, the same bracha, we don't make a bracha twice, right? If I have a piece of fish and I'm having water, I don't make a shahakal on the fish and shahakal on the water because it's the same bracha. We don't make any extra brachas. However, if it's 2 separate brachas, we do make a separate bracha, right? Now, the question is, what happens if I have a dish that has 2 brachas in it? I have rice, and there's some corn in the rice. Right, rice, we said, generally is considered a shahakol. Corn is hadama. So do I have to make a separate bracha on each of the items? Or if I have, bran flakes or cereal, and I have some blueberries in it, or if I have some almonds, or what else goes into cereal, right? A different bracha. One's shahakel, or zaynis, and one's eitz, or whatever, right? Adama. And this comes up with salads, it comes up with soups, it comes up with cakes. If you have, let's say, a cheesecake that has cheese, but then there's a crust. So what bracha do we make on it? Right? So that all is discussed in Parag Gimel, in the third chapter of Seder Berachas Hanenin. And basically, some of the concepts, some of the ideas that we discuss over here is we have the discussion, the concept of ikr and tafel, right? Ikr means what is the main part of the dish, and what is tafel, what is secondary. There's a concept of what is more chashuv, what is more like, what do I want better, right? What's more important to me? What is the majority, right? Is there more of this or more of that? So this is some of the things that we will discuss. So also it depends on every type of food. Is it mixture? Is it cooked together? Was it not cooked together? Could it be separated? Could it not be separated? That's why it gets a little complicated, because every single one you got to figure out exactly how it fits in. And always, like in Shulchan Aruch, we don't give all the examples. They just give you the rules, the principles, and you got to figure out, well, how does this dish, where does it fall in, and what the halacha is. So the beginning of chapter 3, the first halacha reads as follows: So it starts off with a case that you have a mixture of 2 types of foods. They're mixed together, but they have different blessings. And it's understood from the commentaries over here. They explain that here we're basically talking about that they're fully mixed together, where you can't really separate them. So we're not talking about like a salad that has 2 different things. We're like something which is really, it's really mixed together well, where you can't really separate them. So what bracha do you make? So it says like this: Im ha'echad hu ikar, ha'sheni einoisnim b'ki'im letaknu l'hachshirei. If one of them is the main part of the dish, and the second type of food is only there to fix or to what's the English over there? To
one principle, one's a lesser,
second to improve it. Okay. So the primary food is what the bracha that we make on, and it covers the other one as well. Baby bracha neshena, baby bracha chin. This applies to the first blessing and the blessing before and the blessing after. So what's an example for that? No, she's not a good example because cheesecake has a crust, which is different. When you use it, when there's a this is different. But let's see something else. What? Soup, okay. So there, yeah. So there's a separate chapter that talks specifically about soups, but yeah, you generally could say you have something, yeah,
Like cereal, like a bowl of cereal.
but are they really mixed together? That's the question. Spaghetti and sauce, right? It's really mixed together, right? The spaghetti is mezainis. The sauce is considered shahako, probably, right? Lasagna. I mean, there are many things, right? It's totally mixed together. So what bracha do you make? You say, what's the main thing?
The pasta, right?
The pasta is the main dish, right? For most people, right? Sometimes you say you have a salad.
Well, if it has meat within it, and then you consider the meat.
Oh, so the meat might not be so mixed together, right? The meat can be separated. So we'll get to that. Sometimes.
It's mixed with the red sauce. Like the red sauce.
So is it separated or not? That could be separated or not, right? Question is sometimes you get a salad. They say they have like these potato salad or coleslaw salad. Sometimes you say that they put mayonnaise into the salad. Sometimes they say they put the salad into the mayonnaise, right?
Yeah.
But even if the majority is mayonnaise, for example, which is obviously a shahako, and potatoes or the coleslaw is a hadama. But what's the ikar, right? What's the main part of the dish? What's the salad? It's a hadama, right? So you don't make a separate blessing on the ingredients that go in with it, right? The main thing is the salad or whatever, right? Lasagna, I guess the main thing will be the noodles, the pasta, the whatever. So you make a mezainis on it. You don't make a separate blessing on the cheese and a separate blessing on the sauce and right? That's the way it works. Let's just finish up. Shneim ikar. If both of them are the main thing, right? So the both, like for example, let's say you have a bigger mixture of meatballs and spaghetti, right? And whatever, what's the main thing? Is it the meatballs or the spaghetti? I don't know. But probably the both. The both, that's important to me, right? So I don't want to have plain pasta. I don't want to have plain meatballs. I want both together. So then, what do we do? There's a nachshav ikar. We go by the majority. 51%. Whatever is more of the dish, that's the bracha we make. Again, if they're both ikar, they're both a primary ingredient in this dish. And the meal, whatever is the secondary, not the meal, the lesser is what is considered like nullified, which is basically it gets included into the blessing that we make on the other dish. Now, this is understood to mean only if it's really, really mixed together, right? However, when they're not fully mixed together, and they could be separated, there we generally say not necessarily do you make a bracha always on the main. Sometimes you have to make two separate blessings.
A meatball, like you have the red sauce pasta, then you have a meatball. You can
and especially
that by itself.
So you make a separate blessing on each of them, right? Especially if they weren't cooked together, right? So two different dishes. So meatballs and spaghetti, really what we should do is we should first make a blessing on the spaghetti. And then make a separate blessing on the meatballs. And even if they were mixed together, you can still do that. You can take a meatball and take spaghetti, and you make each one a separate bracha. Here we're talking about something which is really one dish. It really became one thing. There's an exception to the rule, and that is what it says in Halacha Beis, the second halacha. Min dagon, when it comes to grain. We always consider mazain, we always consider dagon as an ikar. Always the main, it's always the primary. So even if most of this dish is honey or any other types of ingredients, and only a little bit of it is grain, of the 5 grains, which is mezainis. And even if not just in quantity, but also in the primary ingredient in the dish, not just in quantity, but also for the dish itself, is the other ingredients. And the grain is only there to give it a taste, or to make it, to hold it together, not hold it together, to give it a little taste, or to make it, to add, to infuse something into it, but it's not really there for the main ingredient here is not the grain. Nevertheless, grain is always the most satiating part of it. It's considered a chashuv, and therefore we still make a mezainis, and we make the after blessing from mezainis. But who sheyesh mamoshes hadagim mamoshes? And this is only if there is mamoshes. So there is actually within mamoshes there's a residue. I mean, there's something there. If you put a little flour in something that you don't really touch it, you can't really feel it. You don't really then we don't count it. But if it's something that there's actually there's a crust, there's something to it. You could pinpoint where the grain is. Then it's always a mezainis. But aim by ela time of bad. If it's only like a little taste of it, but there's no texture of grain, then you do not make a mezainis. Yeah.
Kind of like a gravy, like you use a meat juice and add in some flour
into that juice, exactly. In the gravy, you put it over meat, you put it over chicken, or things like that. That wouldn't be mezainis, right? Because there's nothing to it. It's just some flour. That's all it is. Right. However, if there is, then even if it's not really there for it itself, then you still have to make a mezainis. Now I want to just skip to.
Using that. If it's substance, like it has some substance, some content to it, when you do mezainis, right?
Right. So, for example, if you have, let's say, a cheesecake we mentioned earlier, right? There's a crust. You can buy a crust, pie crust, what do they call it, right? So I'm making a pie. Now I'm making a blueberry pie. I'm making a cheese pie. I'm making whatever pie it is, right? So I have the crust. Now, do I want the taste of the crust? Yeah, add some taste. Is it really meant for it's not like really the main, we don't even call it we call it a blueberry pie, right? It's really the filling. That's what it's really. It's not an apple pie, right? But it just we want that taste as well, right? So cheesecake, right? We want the crust on it. Add the taste to have the crust, but we don't really there for the crust. The main thing is the cheese. So then you would still in those cases you would still make a mezainis, even though it's not the main, the primary ingredient, because there's a residue, there's something there. There's a grain texture.
Sustaining with a sustained factor.
It's a sustained factor, even though it's not. If it was something else, if it was like I don't know if they even make it like a corn pie. Do they make these things, right? Or something like that. So they are,
like cornbread
pie or cornbread, whatever, or something like that. Then that's a shahako, and then we'll have to say, well, what's the primary ingredients? If that is not the primary ingredients, we don't make a separate broth. We don't make a shahako. We'll make whatever the rest of the pie is. However, when it comes to grain, the 5 grains, it's an exception. I want to jump to halacha gimel. We're going to skip the second half of it. The third halacha, but he qualifies this. He says, when does this refer to the shahadoga muat nechshav ikar kishen? This only applies when ultimately we want the grain here for its taste. If the only reason why we have it is for the color, just for the thickening, or for the look of it, or in order to keep it thick or to keep it together, there should be a little thick, right? Then we don't make a separate bracha. Meaning, ultimately, it's only here if it's also there for the taste. But if it's only there either for the texture or to keep the thing together, to have a little bit of a thicker texture. So if you have meatballs, schnitzel is a pretty common thing,
Like,
right?
so we
So if you fry,
fried chicken.
right? So fried chicken or fried anything, they use breadcrumbs, right? And this is actually a big question amongst contemporary poskim. What is the bracha for fried, whatever, schnitzel, a pretty common thing in Jewish homes, right? So you have chicken, and ultimately it's fried chicken. But often, fry bread, right? So you put breadcrumbs around it, and you fry it in oil. The question is it a shahakal or is it a mezainis, right? Seemingly, it should be a right. So the question is like this: what is the purpose of
Of the breadcrumbs.
the breadcrumbs? Now, does it vary from chef to chef? Like, why does the chef put breadcrumbs when they fry chicken in oil? Is it only that the chicken shouldn't burn? It should have a nice, good texture. It should be juicy, whatever. It shouldn't get too hot, whatever. I'm not a chef, but right, is that the reason for it? Or no, they want to taste it. It adds taste. So then you even get seasoned breadcrumbs, right? So is it right? What's it for? And the answer to that question may be the difference whether you make a zonos on it or a shahakal. If you're doing it because you actually want the taste of the breadcrumbs, it adds taste. Meaning, either way, it adds taste, right? Breaded chicken doesn't taste the same. The question is, what is the purpose? Why do I want these breadcrumbs? Is it because I want the taste? That's the primary reason why I want it. Then it will be a mazamas. If it's really only because I like the texture of it when it's fried with breadcrumbs, that's the main purpose why it had the breadcrumbs. Then it'll be a shahakal. It might also depend on how sometimes you can get these like store-bought, these commercial whatever, like these almost like this fake type of schnitzel or things like that, where like the breadcrumb is like a thick, it's like a thick layer where it's like almost like half the thickness of the thing. There, I would assume, it's like the breadcrumbs itself is like half the thing. So I think that might be beside this. If it's like a much more of a thinner layer, maybe not. I mean, this is just it doesn't say what the bracha should say. I'm saying
theoretically, you could have two people sitting at a table, and
That's
two
the
different
question.
people would have two different brachos with the same
Meaning-
because of their reason for.
so I'm not sure if it goes by the person, the consumer. Does it go by the person eating it? Does it go by the person who is preparing it? Or is there a standard that we just assume that this is the reason for it? I don't know. I know that there is two opinions amongst the rabbis today what bracha you should make on schnitzel. I think the accepted opinion, I always heard, is that it should be, especially if it's like generally like a thinner layer of breadcrumbs, it should be a shahakal. I saw that the rabbi in Karachabad, the Rabbi Ashkenazi, he wrote that it should be a shahakal. However, I've also seen other rabbis writing that it should be a mezuzah. So
I make a guess.
I'm just
That since there is a question, it's probably better to make a hamotzi.
like
before
everything,
eating all this.
like everything, making a motzi.
It's the safest thing.
You could always do that. Going to eat it during the meal, but this, I make a shop, and this is, I think, the accepted. This is, I think, the accepted opinion is that we make a shop. But just explain to you the reasoning behind it, right? The question is, what's the purpose of it? And I guess what else is there? You have anything that has breadcrumbs, really, the same question, right? What's the purpose of it?
But would you need to eat a certain shear to say I'll make that?
Oh, so the question is, what bracha do you make afterwards? And that is, yes, that is true. You do have to eat. You do have to eat a certain share, and that
Right, 'cause you
is
could even say that
that is later.
it's
So
like it's cooked in oil at that point. It's changed. It's not like breadcrumbs like
no, fried in oil. Fried in oil still keeps it on Zionist, right?
Yeah. But
It's not a mitzi.
Yeah, it's not about
It's not a mitzi, right? But it's Zionist. Right? So the question is not about Zionist. The question is, am I eating Zionist with chicken, or am I eating chicken with Zionist? Right? That's the real question. So even though the rule is that generally we always see Zionist as the main thing, but like it says over here, it has to be at least I'm doing it for the taste, not for the texture. So the question also could arise with pies, right? Why am I making a pie in a crust? Is it because I just need something to hold it together? right? If I have cheese without a crust, it's just going to fall apart, right? If I fill a blueberry filling just in a pan, nothing's holding it together. So I need a pie crust just to hold it together. If that is really, truthfully, the only reason why we have the pie, then maybe we should make a shahakal or whatever it is, right? But I believe that we don't have the pie crust only to hold it together, but also to the taste, right? It does add flavor to the thing. So that's why we make a mazonis, but it's not set in stone, right? It's really every dish you got to figure out what the reason for using these grain is. Right, and he goes into greater detail in Halacha 4, where he says that if we're also having in mind to eat the grain, right, it's part of, meaning it's also for the taste, then already we make a mazaina. So it's really only in the case where, like, I'm not interested at all in the taste of it. I'm only interested in the texture of it. Then you don't make a mazaina. So that's why I think pies, ultimately, we are interested in the taste. And the question is, like schnitzel or things like that, do we really care for it or not? My wife sometimes will make like she'll fry, I guess, like Chinese chicken, like a stew, like, right?
Yeah.
So you put like flour, right? Like, is it for the taste or is it really for the texture? I think it's just for the texture, right? It's not even breadcrumbs. It's just some flour in the sauce, in the gravy, whatever it's called, in the drip. I'm sorry, she puts it in flour and then she fries it, and then on top of that you put the things. So I think it's just for the texture. So for those things, I think
hold the syrup.
Right, I guess. Yeah.
Sauce.
Yeah. So I think these things would be a shahako. Okay, so we're going to skip a little bit. Halacha 7. So here it talks about like a sandwich, right? What if I made like a cheese sandwich, or what if I make another sandwich that I'm baking or I'm cooking the dough together with the filling. So what bracha do I make on the filling? And what happens if I eat the filling without? I take a piece of the filling out, right? Without the dough, right? We make a separate bracha. So let's learn Halacha 7. You have a dough that has a filling, meat or fish or cheese or fruit or anything similar. So the filling becomes secondary, becomes tafel to the dough, and whatever blessing you make on the dough, which is you would also make on the, meaning the filling is included in it. Now, when would it be mezainis? When would it be on? So we spoke already earlier, right? If it's filled with sweets like fruit or something that's like very sweet, sugar or chocolate, then the dough itself becomes a mezainis. But if the dough is filled with more things that was filling, not just not really dessert type of food, then it will be a hamoitzes, right? So here's the keywords over here. Even if you're afterwards eating only the filling, you still don't make a separate blessing on the filling. Now, hamoitzi, you say obviously hamoitzi you wash, you don't make a bracha on any other food, right? But here we're talking about, let's say you make a mezainis, right? I have a cheese sandwich. I made a mezainis. Let's say I have mezainis bread, or right. So I have a cheese sandwich. And now I have some of the cheese that's really, hanging out because I put the whole, snack of cheese. I'm eating some of the cheese separately. I don't have to make a shahako on the cheese because I already made it, because it was part of the sandwich. We're not talking about to get other cheese on the counter. We're talking about cheese from the sandwich. Some of the cheese comes out, or some of the fruit comes out, or whatever is in that sandwich. I don't have to make a separate blessing because it was originally part of it, and I made a bracha mazonos, which covers everything. Even if the filling is enormous, there's a lot. Even if the main reason why I made the dough was for the filling. Is because I'm also eating. I also want to eat the dough, so therefore everything in the filling itself becomes tafel, and they don't make a separate blessing, even if I take the filling out separately. There's no reason to be more machmir to take some of the filling and make a bracha. There's no reason for it. And he says actually pretty harsh words. He who bracha levato, that would be considered a bracha in vain. If you don't have to make the bracha, don't make the bracha. Because once you make a bracha on dough, it covers everything, and you're not allowed to make another bracha on the filling. However, if you're eating the filling without the dough, you're only eating the filling, then you have to make a bracha. But if I'm eating it with the dough, I make a bracha on the dough, then I don't have to make a bracha, and I shouldn't make a bracha on the filling.
Okay, so I got one of those like cream-filled little cookies, those little commonly known as Oreos.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So I say mizonos,
Right.
and then I don't eat the cookie. I twist it open and I start eating the film.
So
Is that a problem?
No, that is a problem. That's exactly what it's saying. Don't do that.
Yeah.
If you're making a mazonos, which is correct, you make a mazonos, eat some of the mazonos, or eat the mazonos with the filling. But if, like I was used to as a kid, I should scrape out just the filling, right? Then I have to make a shakal on the filling. If I made a mazonos and I ate some of the cookie, now I'm just eating the filling, I don't make a separate bracha. And I'm not allowed to make a separate bracha. It's a great example. Right? Okay. So here in Halacha 8, we start introducing what happens with food which are not fully together, right? In Halacha Aleph, the first Halacha we spoke about, these are really mixed together. Here, they're kind of separate. However, I'm only eating one because of the other. So, for example, like, let's say I said l'chaim, right? And if I'm bringing l'chaim, and then I need to eat something. I need to have a pickle. I need to have a drink of water because it's hurting me in my throat, right? Do I make a separate bracha? Well, obviously, water is the same bracha. But let's say a pickle. Pickle is adama, right? I said l'chaim on shahato. And the only reason why I'm eating the pickle is because not because I want the pickle. I just need something to take away the bitter taste. So do I make a bracha on it? Or taking a pill, taking a medicine. I need to drink it with water. I don't really want water now. I'm just drinking the water because I need to take the pill. Now the pill itself, we don't make a bracha on medicine. But do I make a bracha on the water? Right? So let's read Halacha 8. Anytime we eat two things, and one's the ikar, one's the primary food, the other one is the tuffle, it's only coming because of the other, we always make a bracha on the ikar. Even if the foods are not mixed together. I'm just eating them together. And the main reason why I'm eating is for the primary, and the second one is only there because of the first. And if I would have not eaten the first, the primary food, I wouldn't eat the second food. I wouldn't have eaten on the second one on its own. I'm only eating it because of the first. He goes on, even if we're talking about bread. For example, I guess it's a common example. If someone wants to eat a salted piece of fish, maybe a sardine, I don't know, a salted fish, and because I don't want it to hurt me or to in my throat, I also want to eat. I want to eat it with bread. I don't want to eat the bread. I want to eat the fish. But I feel it's safer to eat the fish with a piece of bread. So then I don't make a bracha on the bread. I just make a shahakol on the fish. Now, this is only if I wouldn't have, if I'm not hungry at all for the bread, and and I'm not interested in eating bread at all. But if I also want to eat the bread, even though I'm eating it with the fish, even if the main reason why I'm eating the bread is because of the fish, I still have to make a bracha on the bread.
So we say that even though we just said in the last halacha too that the Muslim is more cautious.
That's only if I'm wanting to, like, what do we say? When the Muslim or chashish, the Muslim is always chashish, but it's only when I'm also interested in the Muslim, right? It's adding a taste. Here, I have no interest in the bread.
You're only eating it as a
I'm
chaser.
only eating as a chaser, exactly. Only eating it to get the fishing. So then I don't make a bracha on this. But like he says, if I'm also somewhat hungry and I also want to have even I want to be satiated from the bread, even though I'm only the primary reason why I'm eating it is because of the fish, I also would not make. So then I would make a bracha on. Yeah. So that's why we'll see later how the Alter Rebbe says that you shouldn't really be using you shouldn't really be using the bread in order to be a chaser, unless you're ready to wash, unless you're ready to make a bracha on it. Otherwise, you should not be relying on this. Right. Now, halacha, halacha 9. A similar idea is someone who eats before the meal bread that's dipped in like beer or wine. Why am I eating the bread? Because I guess back in the day, people would eat bread or some beer or some wine before the meal in order to kind of open your appetite, to open your digestive system, right? Before you eat, like an appetizer, right? So the reason why he was eating the bread was only because he wants to have it as a chaser to eat it together with the wine. Why am I eating the wine? In order that before I eat, I should have some wine, right? So there's no interest right now in the bread itself.
It almost feels like medicinal. These two, halacha 9.
No, so he says halacha 9 is that we should not do this because since it's before you eat the meal, so we are assuming that you're hungry. And if you're hungry and you're eating bread, even though your primary intention over here is not for the bread itself, only to open your appetite, nevertheless, you're hungry, you're enjoying it. So therefore, you're probably also enjoying the bread, and therefore you should not do this. However, if it's, let's say, after the meal and it's truly coming only as a chaser, then even with bread, you will not have to make a bracha. Right? Now, this is only if you're eating it directly after in order to be as a chaser. Afterwards, if you're continuing to eat, you obviously have to make a separate bracha. But you have to be careful not to eat too much bread, because if you have too much bread, then you have to wash. So he really, discourages using bread. But the point is, as a chaser, right? If you have a cookie, if you have a cracker, so you're eating, not when you're hungry. You're not hungry. You already had your meal. You're sitting down afterwards, and you had a l'chaim, and you want a chaser, and you see a cracker on the table. You're eating the cracker only as a chaser. Then you do not make a bracha on the cracker. If you're hungry, meaning if it's before the meal, then we are assuming that you really also want that, because it's also satiating you, and therefore you have to make a bracha.
So if somebody were to do that, not mindful of the salah, would they be saying a bracha in May?
They would do what?
Like just wanting that cracker in the moment, because this is a very difficult. I can see as practically as very difficult to remember in that moment.
So if they accidentally made a bracha on it,
yeah,
it's probably like I said before. Once you, if you have no intention to eat it on its own, you don't make a bracha.
Yeah.
Right now, it does say, I'm jumping to Halacha 14, that the best thing is not to rely, not to do this, because we're not sure you do want it, you don't want it. The best thing to do is, if you know that you're about to need a chaser, first eat the chaser. Right? Have a bite, make a mezainis or whatever it is. Have a bite of that chaser. Then you could, have a drink of your l'chaim, and then you could eat it again. Like this, you're staying away from any questions. Oh, I didn't want it. I didn't really want it. Right? I was hungry. I wasn't hungry. Best thing is don't rely on it. Right? First eat it before, and then. By the way, when it comes to medication, I'm not sure if they have the example over here of medication, but the same thing applies, right? If I'm only drinking, if I only eat, let's say, sometimes you have, you take something with food, right?
like a pill
that has to go with food, right?
for a child or something.
Right. So the same thing. If the food is only there for the pill, you also don't make a bracha. But the same dish, right? But what if you're also a little hungry, right? So you're actually enjoying the food. So the best thing is take a bite, make a bracha, take a bite of the food. Then you can use it as a chaser as well. The exception to this is water, a drink. Because a drink, you could say, I'm not hungry, right? So with a drink, you could I'll see here clearly, but I think I remember seeing that with the drink, we could rely on it to just have the drink afterwards, like after medication. If you need the water just to help the pool go down, then you are able to rely on that. Now, what it mentions is that we know, and I'm not sure if you ever mentioned it, that there's this concept of every single day to make 100 blessings, right? So we learn that from the verse. Say 100 blessings every day. Now, Shulchan Aruch goes through that just as a religious Jew going through the day, wake up in the morning, saying the morning blessing, going through the davening 3 times a day, the Shemona Esrei, the Shema, using the washroom, washing, and having a meal, just kind of going through your day, you pretty much have 100 blessings. And if you don't, you're very close, just the extra few blessings, right? It's 100 blessings, right? Think of it. Every Shemona Esrei is already 19 blessings, right? But that time 3, you're already, halfway there. And then you have morning blessings and everything else. Shabbos actually a little short because Shabbos is Shemona Esrei only has 7 blessings. I'm sorry, it has 7 blessings instead of 19. So you're already short. And that's why it says on Shabbos you should make other blessings. You should smell the summon, things like that. But either way. It says over here, because it's always this idea to add in blessings to reach 100 blessings. So therefore, the best thing is in this case, instead of saying, "Oh, I don't have to make a blessing. I'm only using it for the pill." The best thing is, make a shahakol, have some water, then have the pill with the water like this. Make another blessing, so you kind of reach your 100 blessings. Just the last thing that to finish off, but it finishes off over here with anytime that we make a blessing on the primary food, it also covers it. The other food, it's only if I actually have in mind that I'm going to eat this as well, right? If I do not have in mind that I'm going to have a chaser, for example, and I said, "Oh, I really need a chaser," then it doesn't count because when you made the blessing, you didn't have in mind that should cover that as well. Okay, I think we'll stop here. It's kind of we skipped a lot, but that's the general, the gist of things in the third halacha. I'm trying to think some other practical thing if you mentioned or not. Like just talk about some practical let's say cereal, right? We mentioned you have the cereal, right? So why are you eating the cereal? What's the main thing in the cereal? It's the cereal itself. That would cover, it would cover the other blessings. What about cereal and milk is the question, right?
Right.
So do I make a separate blessing on the cereal and a separate blessing on the milk? So it really is, the question is, what is the primary purpose, or are they both primary? And do I want both? So growing up, we always made a blessing on the cereal. We never made a separate blessing on the milk. I know that some families, they say no, they make a separate blessing. Some blessing on the cereal, blessing on the milk, and then they eat it together. I guess the question is, how important is the milk to your cereal? You know?
So practically doing like you having something that you're going to two separate breaths, or three even maybe.
Right.
Are you doing a bracha, doing a little bit of that thing, and then immediately going to the next
Yeah,
thing,
you can do that.
and the next thing,
Yeah.
and then getting that.
Well, it doesn't have to be immediately. It's before you take a bite of it, right? Yeah. So that's what you do for cereal and milk. For example, if you have, let's say, a chocolate bar that has a crust to it, right? A lot of them have this. It's like a wafer that has a filling of chocolate, right? The chocolate filling is shahakal, the wafer is mazonos. There, you got to make a mazonos, because mazonos is always obviously it's there for the taste, right? But there's some practical examples. If you have, let's say, a fruit salad that has some hadama and it has some ha'etz in it. It has different types of fruits. So, if they're both important to the salad, then we go what's the majority, right? I think I said that right at the beginning, right?
You're right.
If it's majority one, another, unless I specifically really like the minority, right? That fruit that's in there, that's different bracha. Then I really like that. Then I might have to make a separate blessing on each of one of them.
So like lemon juice squeezed onto watermelon. I really like both. But
it's really a
watermelon
taste to
really-
the watermelon. It's giving a taste to the watermelon. Yeah. Either way, lemon juice. This would be a shahakal, but yeah.
That'd be a complicated one.
Yeah, I never heard that before. That would do so fun.
It's actually really good.
Should try it out. Okay, we're gonna close over here the recording.